We all know India's economy is a powerhouse, right? But what's really fueling it? It's not just tech or finance. Nope, it's something way more fundamental. The very land the country is built on. So today, we're going to dig into how India's natural resources, from its farms to its mines, have shaped its past and are, well, defining its future. Just take a look at this. It's a fantastic way to think about a nation's circulatory system. You've got agriculture. That's the lifeblood, providing all the sustenance. Then there's industry, the heart, pumping out value. And finally, transportation, the arteries that connect the whole thing. So this isn't just a collage of pictures. It's really a visual metaphor for how India's geography is totally linked to its economic pulse. And that diversity, that's the real key. You have the super fertile Gangetic Plain up in the north, which is perfect for farming. And then you've got the Deccan Plateau in the south, which is just this massive storehouse of minerals. You see, this isn't just about pretty landscapes. It's about having the right stuff in the right places, creating this natural launchpad for economic growth. Okay, so let's start on the surface with the land's bountiful harvest. Agriculture is really the foundational layer here. It's not just feeding over 1 billion people, but it's also supplying the raw materials for some of the nation's biggest industries. And to really get your head around the sheer scale of this, just look at this number. Nearly 2/3 of India's entire population depends directly on agriculture for their livelihood. This isn't some niche sector. It's the very heart of the country's social and economic fabric. You know, India's agriculture quite literally dances to the rhythm of the monsoons. And this slide breaks down that dance into two main steps, the Kharif and the Rabi. Think of it like a 1-2 punch that makes sure there's a year-round supply of food and materials. You get rice and cotton from the wet season and wheat and pulses from the dry season. This whole dual-season system is really the secret to India's agricultural resilience. In India, rice is king. But, it's a demanding king. As you can see, it's a super thirsty crop. It needs over 150 centimeters of rain, and it's really picky about its soil. It prefers that rich, silty, alluvial stuff you find in river deltas. So all these demands create a very specific geographical recipe for where rice can actually grow and succeed. And boom, this map is a perfect example of cause and effect. Following that recipe we just talked about, you can literally see how the great river systems and long coastlines dictate where rice is grown. It's a powerful visual reminder that in India, geography isn't just some backdrop. It often shapes destiny, influencing everything from what people eat to how they make a living. Okay, so the fertile topsoil gives us the harvest, but that same geography hides a whole other layer of wealth. What treasures lie buried just beneath our feet? Right, so if agriculture is the flesh of India's economy, then the minerals, they're the skeleton. We're talking about the raw materials that form the very foundation of modern life, from the steel in our buildings to the copper in our electronics. And when it comes to these minerals, iron ore is the undisputed king. It's the key ingredient in steel, which is the backbone of the entire industrial world. India has this massive strategic advantage here because it has 4 different types of ore. You've got the high-quality magnetite, but also these vast reserves of hematite, which is the most widely used in industry. That kind of diversity is a huge asset. Okay, now I want you to let this number really sink in. 20%. That's India's share of the world's total iron ore reserves. 1/5 of the entire planet's supply. I mean, that's not just a statistic, right? That's a statement of power. It's the geological foundation for India's potential to be a global industrial leader. This timeline, it tells a story of pure ambition. In the years after independence, India went on an absolute steel-making spree. Just look at those dates. Major plants popping up in just a few years, built with international partners like Russia, Germany, and the UK. This wasn't just about making steel, this was about building a nation and declaring to the world that India was an industrial force to be reckoned with. All right, so we've got the riches from the soil and the treasures from underground. Now let's put it all together and see how all this raw potential gets transformed into actual, economic reality. Let's trace this journey through cotton. It looks so simple, right? So delicate. But this little puff of fiber, it's the seed of a massive global industry. And just like rice, it's a bit of a diva. It demands just the right kind of soil to thrive. And this map here, it shows you exactly where that cotton belt of India is. It's mainly in the Deccan Plateau, where the climate and soil are just perfect for this demanding crop. This isn't a random pattern at all. It's a clear example of how geography shapes industry, creating this natural supply chain that's been around for centuries. So the big question is, how on earth do you get from that single puff of fiber to this? This, right here, is where the magic happens. That humble puff of cotton is transformed into the universal fiber, the raw material for India's textile empire. This is the industrial alchemy that turns a simple crop into a global commodity. And in Mumbai's rise as the Cottonopolis of India was no accident. It was a perfect storm of geographical advantages. It had the cotton fields right nearby, it had a natural harbor for shipping goods out, and it had a reliable source of power for the mills. It's that trifecta of factors that created this self-reinforcing cycle of growth that made the city the king of Indian textiles. So this whole model of raw materials being processed super close to where you find them, that's a pattern that really defines India's economic map. And it's a story that's still being written. You see this exact same pattern all over the country. Sugarcane from the fields, it goes to a nearby mill and becomes sugar. Iron ore from the mines, it's sent off to these giant plants to be forged into steel. It's a simple but incredibly powerful economic formula that has driven the country's industrial development for decades. And trust me, India's treasure chest is deep. This table just gives you a little peek at some of the other gems it holds. You've got bauxite from Odisha, that's the stuff in airplanes, copper from Jharkhand, which, carries our electricity, and mica from Andhra Pradesh, a critical insulator in our smartphones. Every single one is a tiny but essential piece of our modern world, and India is a major supplier for all of them. So it's pretty clear that India's natural resources have been a huge blessing, right? They've fueled its growth, they've built its industries. But here's the thing, the next chapter of India's story is all about how it handles this incredible wealth. It's about finding that balance, how to harness its natural wealth in a way that's sustainable for the future, but also fair for its people today. And that's the real question, isn't it?